okay, if he actually made me, why do I have to choose him? He should have just automatically, forced me to go in his own way.
Mm.
The God that we serve is a meek God. What do I mean by that? He will not compel you. He has given us something that is very powerful, free will,
Mm.
to choose him or not to choose him.
Yeah.
That's what actually made him so powerful.
Mm.
Because if he was scared of something, maybe one day
Uprising or
you
something.
come and overthrow him,
Yeah.
he will decide not to give you the free will.
Yeah.
That is why most of the governments in the world don't like, to give people the free will, the freedom to,
Yeah. They
you know.
become dictators and all that.
They want to control you in one way or the other.
Yeah.
It shows how powerless they are.
Mm.
They want to monitor your phone, they want to know the calls that you're making,
Yeah.
the text messages that you're
Yeah.
sending.
What are you spending your money on?
you know